I look at a book as just a treasure trove of elements that you can extract and then reuse, recycle, upcycle, into different learning products. So yeah, I see it as an opportunity. I see every body of knowledge as an opportunity for learning, and it really just depends on what the learning products are that you want to deliver and that your clients want and need from you.
Well, hello, folks. Andrew Griffiths here on the Business of Being an Author podcast. And today, how lucky are we to have the one and only Maria Doyle joining us? Hello, Maria Doyle.
Hello, Andrew Griffiths. How are you?
I know we're using full names here. We're trying to be, we're trying to class up this space a little bit. Now, I do want to welcome you, Maria. To me, you're a very, very interesting human being. We worked together for a couple of years, I guess now, I would say. And in that time, I am constantly amazed by you, what you do, how you do it, how you think, so many different things. But we'll get into that a little bit more. So, basically you've got this really broad, diverse 30-year background in teaching, travel, working with not-for-profits and all kinds of organizations and extraordinary places, right the way through to helping leaders and even corporations to become better at teaching, transferring knowledge and creating learning experiences. And we've had so many conversations around that. And I know that your passion is really helping others to really develop that culture of teaching, something that's becoming increasingly important in the world. Putting an end to some of those obvious things like death by PowerPoint that we've all heard of, or just creating another dull and boring online course that no one completes, all of that kind of stuff. So huge knowledge, so on topic for what it is we're here to talk about today. And of course, what you do is driven by the most extraordinary book, Everyone's a Teacher, and having the absolute pleasure of working with you on this book as you created it. That's what gave me such an insight into what it is that you do. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. So it's a big topic, and you are across it from traditional teaching to thought leader teaching to corporate programs to all elements of this. And as the book says, everyone's a teacher. And I think that's the moral to the story. Is that a kind of fair wrap up and introduction so far?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's all about transferring knowledge, isn't it? Knowledge and skills. So yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're a grandma teaching a kid how to tie shoelaces or whether that kid is teaching their grandma how to use their phone, or you're in a corporate boardroom type situation. If you're transferring knowledge and skills, you're a teacher. So yeah, it's very broad.
Yeah, great. Yeah, love it. So the audience for this show are authors like you, like me, specifically those people who I would probably say are commercial authors in terms they want to use their book to create opportunities, to become perhaps better at communicating, generate revenue, attract more clients, all those kind of things, way beyond just the concept of selling books in a bookstore. So the reason I wanted to interview you was to get your thinking about productization based around books, something I think that many authors struggle with. And I think that's probably a good place to start around that. A lot of authors start at the book and then stop. So I guess the first question I have is, why do you think so many people miss the bigger product opportunity that's sitting right there in front of them?
Well, I mean, I've come at this from a little bit different angle. So I tried every learning product possible before I wrote the book. And the book was like a culmination of all of these different iterations over the years. So I have created that course as an in-person workshop, as a coaching program. It's been white labeled as the instructional design course in government departments. It's gone through all of the iterations possible. I've done the retreats in Bali. I've done I've done all of them. So the book for me was about pulling all of that together and having, you know, a business card on steroids. And I think most people do the opposite to that. So obviously my whole gig is about learning experiences. So I need to have created them and have delivered them to understand what it is I'm expecting my clients to do. But most people come from the other angle, right? Like their knowledge is what is in the book. Yeah. And then it's, well, how can we use it?
Right. Yeah. I think it's a little bit of an equal mix, because I certainly find that some of the people I've worked with are probably a little bit similar to you, that they've had teaching what it might be a topic that they're a topic matter expert in, and they might have been speaking about it. They may have had some degree of product architecture around it. Writing the book cemented their thinking and helped them to do that. So that then that became the product that sold the program, you know, masterclass series, whatever it might be. But I do find that once the book has come out, often with those people, and even with others who have just written the book and now are trying to build their product architecture around it, it doesn't really kind of come naturally. You know, maybe it's one product. I build an online course and it stops at that. Why do you think that is?
I think there's a couple of reasons. If it's anything like my experience, by the time you birth that book, you are over it.
Yeah.
You need some time away from it because you've been so close to it for so long. And I'm sure a lot of people feel like that. But I think the second piece is that when I look at a body of knowledge, I look at it in columns and rows. Like, if you look at the different parts of the book, not just the modules, but then you break the modules or the chapters down into different segments, like what's in every chapter. There's obviously going to be stories, there could be outcomes, there could be lots of different categories of knowledge or skills that you can then market in different ways. And that's the way I look at intellectual property. It's probably not the way that most people look at it, but I look at
but it's great.
Yeah. So when I look at someone's knowledge and help them put it into a curriculum map, so we can reverse engineer that with, if they've already got a book, it's like, well, every chapter is a story in itself. So the way you can extract pieces of those chapters or elements from the chapters and put them all together, then they can become completely different offerings for you. So, yeah, I look at a book as just a treasure trove of elements that you can extract and then reuse, recycle, upcycle, you know, into different learning products. So, yeah, I see it as an opportunity. I see every body of knowledge as an opportunity for learning. And it really just depends on what the learning products are that you want to deliver and that your clients want and need from you, because that's another problem. You know, people, I created an online course and it didn't work. It's like, did it not work because it wasn't a good course, or did it not work because your ideal client doesn't want an online course? That's a mistake I learnt the hard way.
Well, but it's a valid point, right? And part of that is that whole piece where, you know, you're told build an online course and perhaps, you know, it rightly so, it might be the wrong direction, or it might be the wrong kind of assumption, I think, as well. You know, Marie, maybe just give a bit of an overview of what you see are potential learning products that we could create off the back of a book. Just types, you know?
There's so many. And I've got this enormous grid of all of the different possibilities, because you can break them down into, I mean, I could just list off a whole bunch of them now, but if you think about them like this, right? Like there's the types of products where you're the author. So you are writing or speaking or getting your knowledge and skills out there onto paper or in audio. So that could be articles, it could be podcasts, it could be blog posts, it could be, you know, any of these modes where you are sharing your knowledge and sharing your skills. Then you get the sort of group learning versions of that. So where you are facilitating groups of people with that knowledge, right? So again, it could be online, it could be offline, it could be a 6-month program, it could be a 6-day program, it could be a 60-minute program, you know. So it's all bound by time and space, really, like how long and how deeply are you engaging the learners with that learning product. And then, of course, there's like the other end, which is the coaching, like the one-to-one programs or the consulting, you know, the reporting. So there's all these different products that can come out of it, but it really depends on, you know, do you need an online, offline mechanism? Do you want to be the facilitator of that? Do you want to be the coach? Do you just want to author? Like, you've got to decide what roles you want to play, and then you've got to know what your clients want. My clients, I did online courses for my clients thinking, oh, yes, I'm an online course developer. I will develop online courses. All of my clients will want to do my online course. Incorrect. No one wanted an online course. They wanted me to look at their stuff and tell them how to make it better. Right? So I can build the most amazing online courses in the world. That's my job. I've got the technology. I know how to do it really well in the right structure. But my clients don't want it. It's a fizz. Like, it doesn't work.
I think it's the part that gets overlooked. I remember working with a guy, and he'd come to me that he'd spent $100,000 developing an online course, and that he was trying to sell for $2,500, and he hadn't sold one in 12 months. And really it came back to that point. He developed what he thought people wanted and needed, but he hadn't actually really engaged his community to find out, is that actually what you want? And that's a heck of a lot. That was $100,000 cash to do that, but thousands of hours, as well. So,
and this is what, like, with all due integrity, if a client comes to me and says, right, let's start working, I want to build this product, I'm like, have you tested that? Do you know that that's what your clients want? Do you know how much they're willing to pay for it? Do you know how long they want to be working with you? Do they want something intensive? Do they want something longer term? If they can't answer those questions, with all due respect, I back out. I can't take your money and I'm not going to work with you, because I'm not going to create something that is going to be useless for your market. Like, it's just, I can't, with integrity, I can't help them build something like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's super important.
Absolutely. Great integrity and really, a great starting point around that, rather than thinking perhaps, I've written a book, now I've got to do an online course, then I've got to do, an audio series or whatever it might be, without, again, asking the bigger questions and having that, bigger strategy. And again, I think that the missing link that I often think around this is a process to follow. But I also think it really is, a lack of having someone to really strategize about what the book could actually do. And if you don't have someone, which is what you do, you sit down with an author and go, right, let's look at this book. Let's kind of figure it out. What does your audience want? Who is your audience? So they're all 90-year-olds and they they want to do this, grow chickens as a hobby, and you've written a book about growing chickens. We're probably not going to do a highly involved online program, which is going to have lots of tech stuff for them to figure out. It might be this or it might be that. So fell down a rabbit hole of chickens there. But if we move on and we kind of go, you help them develop the strategy and help them pull the book apart, and you see what they don't see. Align then with your own expertise around teaching and going, okay, great. So it doesn't matter what your business is or what you're trying to teach or who you're trying to teach it to. They're the complexities in that matrix that you are then able to say, okay, so if you want to do this product for that kind of person, you're saying you want an online program, but I think you actually want this, is going to be more effective.
And that's the process that we have to go through. And that's why it's so different for every client. Like, people are like, oh, what's the best way to do learning these days? And I'm like, well, that's like saying, what's the best car to drive? Like, the best car, what? Are you four-wheel driving on the beach, or are you doing bog laps in Fremantle? Like, what's your purpose of the car? How many people need to be in it? How fast does it need to go? How fashionable does it need to look? These are all the questions that, obviously for a car, but if you were doing a course on how to...
Is it any different for a course? Yeah.
Well, but it's the same, and the raising chickens course, you've got a book about raising chickens. That's great. Do people need an online course, or do they need a community of people that are raising chickens close by so they can share eggs or tools or whatever? Do they need, some elder people in the community who have been raising chickens for the past 50 years and have seen all the diseases and all the bits and pieces and can be on hand to diagnose something if it's not working? Or, do they need help with a problem chook?
Yeah,
and
right.
then how do you deliver
gone
that?
Bad.
Yeah, how do you deliver that help for that one chook? Is it a frequently asked questions bank on your website? Is it a free 5-minute chat at any day of the time of day or night? I hope not. But like, there's lots of different ways of delivering those services based on what the client wants and needs. So, understanding your ideal client and how they're going to work with you most effectively. I mean, it's taken me 15 years and I don't know how many iterations of how I work with my own clients, because everyone's different, and there's coaches out there that'll go, you need to have a coaching program that, costs this much and happens this frequently. It's like, not if it doesn't work for my clients, I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice
Exactly.
advice, but what Wheatie box did you get that advice off? Like if it's not tailored to the people who are going to be using it, what's the point? It's not going to land. So, yeah, it's a real exploration of what's possible and what could work. And it's even down to let's go back to the, raising chickens example. Do they want a workbook? Do they want to test their knowledge? Are they worried that they're going to do something wrong? Do they want to be put in scenarios where chickens escape and they have to figure out how to get the chickens back in at dusk when there's a fox around the corner? So all of these do they want to be pushed? Do they want to be challenged? Are they just trying to achieve an aim of some description? What do they want to do? And this is what it all comes back to. And I'm sure there's a question here that we're going to cover this off on. So I'm just going to say it now. So important.
But it's awesome. And it's again, what I'm trying to do, with this show is also to get people to think differently about the business of being an author. It's not just there's a book and I'm going to make $10 on the book. You've got to have this product architecture around it, and we have free products. And I think sometimes people are a bit dismissive of free products because for the same reason there, Maria, I don't think that they often realize the importance of free products. It's not just to lead people into a funnel, the damn funnel message to buy my stuff. It can be an extraordinary tool for building community, for creating connection, for gathering information, for, whatever it might be. Everyone kind of focuses on, I want to get as quickly as I can to the paid stuff, because I want to do an 8-figure business, blah, 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 blah. And I feel again that can be a bit of a gap, in this, becoming a commercial author kind of model.
Well, and I think that often we go straight to what product can we create to sell to, to bring in the money without thinking of who are we bringing in? Like who do we want in this funnel? And do we have a diagnostic tool of some description that is based on the book that can help us filter the right people into the course? The most basic diagnostic is if you look through your book and you've got 12 chapters, like, my book has got 12 chapters. There is a diagnostic that goes with every stage. So there's 4 sort of stages. You do this diagnostic and then you figure out which chapters you actually really need in the book. So yes, of course, that's free. People can do the diagnostic. They can self-assess themselves and go, okay, I got 8 out of 10 here. I don't need Maria's book. No harm, no foul. I don't want you. If you don't think you need to work with me based on that, then we're not a good fit, or you've already got the skills and on you go. But you might recognise someone else who needs those skills and go, hey, go and do that diagnostic. I think you might need to work with Maria. So it's a very cost-effective way to go through your book and go, well, what are the outcomes? What do people do differently when they read this book? What am I hoping they're going to be able to achieve or do differently after having read this book? What does it mean for them personally, professionally, whatever? And then let's drill down. What are all of the subcomponents of that make up that outcome? And then let's help them self-diagnose, like help them assess whether they do need or not to be working with you or reading your book, So simple ideas like that are not necessarily designed to make the money, but they're designed to filter the people in that need to be there. And so they feel qualified. They're like, yeah, I've done the assessment. I need to be here. Yeah, this is definitely where I want to be. It's the first part of engaging an adult. If an adult doesn't want to be there, they're not going to be there. They're going to be checked out mentally, right? So
anything that we're creating, has to have that, that kind of consideration piece in mind as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I've written my book. I call you and say, righto, Maria, I've got no products, but I've written the book. Can you kind of talk me through, like, how do you, we've touched on it already, I believe, but just a kind of a bit of a step-by-step process that you would then take with me.
Yeah, so my 4 stages, I'm not spruiking the book, but I am.
You've got to be a shameless author. We all have to spruik our books. We're starving authors.
Well, this is why I wrote the book, because I keep saying the same things over and over. So it's like, well, exactly if you want the details, it's in there. But the first stage, I've got 4 stages to any learning experience that's going to be extraordinary, to my mind, has 4 stages. Creating it has 4 stages. And the first stage is that product development, right? So that's the first stage. What's the product? How does it work? What support are you giving? Where is it hosted? How long does it go for? What equipment do you need? There's a million questions, and I've got all the templates and bits and pieces that you can, choose your own adventure and explain all of those things. So that's the bit that needs the market research. That's the bit that you've got to know, what do your clients want? Like, do they want to come to night classes? Do they want self-study stuff they can do in their own time before they come for like a live session? How often do they want the live session? Is there a live session? What other support are you giving? Like, all of those questions have got to be answered before we can really start with any integrity. So oftentimes that's a little bit back and forth. You've got to go away and ask more questions before you're confident and before I'm happy to work with you and be confident that we're working on the right product. So that's where we always start. After that, we look at the curriculum. So like I was just talking about before, like let's line up all the modules or the chapters or whatever it is, and let's look at how your book is structured and how we can then extract various elements out of it for different purposes. So, for example, we might look at all the outcome statements. So if you've got a book on business, I know someone who's written a book on business, Andrew, not sure who. So chapter 1, you're going to do this. You're going to get your marketing sorted out, or you're going to get your branding sorted out. Number 2, you're going to get XYZ sorted out. I don't know, your offshore assistance, I don't know. I'm just making this up. So at the end of every one of those chapters, what are you hoping people are going to be able to do differently? That's an outcome statement. So you will own a brand, you will design a brand, whatever. Where's the activity? We go and design the brand. That's all part of that chapter. Now, in your book, you might not have all the activities and the case studies and all that sort of stuff, because that's the stuff that might come later if you're building out a workshop version. But in that chapter, you'll have a topic, and the topic needs to have a point. Like, why are you talking about that topic? And then what can the learner take away from it? So let's say it's not like a business skills kind of book. Let's say it's more 12 stories about leadership and resilience. People are reading that book because they want inspiration, or they want to go and think about something differently or do something differently. So, where are the outcomes and the activities that we can put together to make that chapter have a lot of punch? So when we're looking at your book from a structural perspective, we can take out the outcome statements and create a diagnostic tool. We can take out the topics or the pain points, gain points, the kind of why is this important? What's the before and after? And we can create little mini stories like articles or blogs or podcast episodes out of that. So we can systematically go through your book and extract elements for different purposes, put them all together, and they become a learning product by themselves. Right. So that curriculum part is super important, because you get to see the book in its entirety, and then you get to see all the possibilities that you've got within that book. We then decide what you're creating. So some people create the online course or the workshop version or the retreat version. Some people make worksheets and diagnostic tools. Some people go on
workbooks now. Yeah.
It's endless. The possibilities are as wide as your imagination can go. That third stage is building the learning resources, whatever they are. And then those resources need to be built in a way that are engaging and not just regurgitating more information, because we are in a world where there's no shortage of information. There's tools now. Teach me how to. Bang, 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 bang. Really the content is out there. You don't you have to bring something new to the content. You have to bring lived experience or perspective or something different, because AI can teach you anything these days. So what are you doing that makes it different? Why are people coming to work with you?
And the fourth part?
Fourth part, of course. How could I forget? Thanks, Andrew. The fourth
here
part.
To serve, Maria, here to serve.
You know my book so well, you've realised that I forgot a whole stage. Sorry, that's kind of the capstone stage. So it's continuous improvement. So how do we always make what we're doing better? So whether that's, reviews or surveys before, during, after they're working with you, or before, during, after the course that they're in, or whatever. It's about, how do we collect the feedback? What do we do with it when we get it? How do we discern what's useful and not useful? And then how do we build that into the process so that we are always improving it? We've got a regular sort of attempt at improving the course as a whole before we go and spruce it up and sell it again. Do you know? So it just theoretically should be getting better and better every time you deliver it.
So what we've done here, folks, is we've gone from, I've written a book, I'm going to do an online program, I'm going to extract the contents page and turn that into an online program. I'm going to record it. There we go. It's on Kajabi. Now we've got an online program, right? We've gone from that to a deeply strategic approach to creating products. Now, you know what? I also know that there'll be people kind of listening to this going, oh my God, it sounds like so much work, rah, rah. But how much better do you think the end result for the products are that you're going to be creating? How much more relevant? How much more effective? I mean, I think that sometimes creating products is a tick box. Created the online program, created the download worksheet. They're not actually done to say, how do I create an online program, to use that as an example, that's extraordinary, that people are raving about, that actually they're emailing you saying, oh my God, I got so much out of that. And even perhaps more importantly, they're actually doing it and finishing it. So there's products and products, right?
And I think that's the trap that a lot of people fall into. They go, "Oh God, I don't want to create an online course because
it's too hard."
And also because the online courses that they've done are shit. Excuse my language, and you're allowed to say shit.
That's true.
But they are. They're tick and flick, or it's just reading and it's boring and it doesn't go anywhere, or it's listening to lectures that go on for like 45 minutes. It's like, it's boring as. And that's what people are against. They're like, oh, I don't want to create one of them. It's terrible. And it's like, yeah, no, you don't want to create one of the terrible ones. You want to create one of the good ones. And the good ones, what makes a good online learning experience is, where do I start? You got another couple of hours? No, but it's engaging. It's something that, looks at all your skills. Like there's a little bit of reading, there's a bit of listening, there's a bit of thinking, there's a bit of doing, and it's mixed up. It's not just an hour and a half of reading or an hour and a half of listening to someone. Like that is boring as. It needs to be dynamic, especially now in a world where attention spans are like, tiny and where people need this instant gratification. A 45-minute video online is not the way to go unless you're Barack Obama or someone who can who can hold people for that amount of time. But even then, to what end? For what purpose are you speaking at someone for 45 minutes? How is that in any way helpful? So I think there's a lot of shift. When I first started doing this, people were recording their online presentation. They had, their PowerPoint, they had their little face in the corner and they were presenting a workshop the way they would be doing it face to face, but there was no one there and there was just a camera recording them. And that is not the way we do things anymore. Well, it is, you can still do that, but the engagement level of that kind of training is way lower than if you're using all these tools to mix it up. So the way that we create online courses these days is in an authoring tool that's, oh my goodness, it is so, what would take me 10 weeks last year now takes me like a week. I'm not joking. The tools have made it so much quicker. You can literally feed a chapter of your book into these AI tools that are inside the authoring tools. So it is all, closed circuit stuff. And say, create me a lesson, and it'll say, who's your learner? How long does it have to go for? How many minutes of learning would you like this to be? You answer all those questions and it goes, would you like a script or would you like some interactive pieces? And it spits it out. And honestly, a year ago, I reviewed a lot of these tools and it was just garbage in, garbage out. It was, there was just no point. It was actually a waste of time. It just made my job slower. But now... Wow. Like just the way it can run with a theme and then come up with interactive activities and, oh, here's a mix and match activity. Oh, I don't like that. Change that into a table activity. Whoop, done. Literally within seconds. It's just amazing. So there's no excuse for boring online training anymore. You can make online training engaging and suiting different macro skills and really mixing up the learning experience. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to what are your people going to achieve at the end of this? What are you trying to get them to do? And this is a question that not enough people
are asking, right? Yeah.
And exploring properly. If you've got a book on leadership or resilience and you want to create a course around that, I'm assuming that you want these people to come out of your learning product being more resilient or feeling more confident or having better leadership skills. So let's define that. Like, what exactly do you want them to do? And then we can reverse engineer the activities and the content that they need around that. It's not always like, I wrote this book. This book is going to be an online course. We're going to use the whole book in the course. Not necessary. They can read the book as supplementary reading. The power is in the product, getting them to apply the knowledge. They don't always need all that content. That's why you've written the book. It's an extra resource. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I think it's just a different way of thinking.
You don't have to just mirror the book chapter by chapter.
God, no.
Word by
Why would
word,
you do that?
Well, yeah, I know, right?
They can read it.
Again, old model, the old world. So anyway, okay, all right. What I take out of this so far, again, is the fact that, develop your products to a strategy, have a bigger purpose. The aim being, again, there are all types of products, but rather than tick a box by saying, I've got to create this product, this product, this product, perhaps it's more about getting to know your audience really, really well and then working with them to come up with the right kind of products as well. Because ultimately, to create the right products that sell and create revenue and opportunities, they do have to be developed strategically. They do have to be the right products, rather than just creating products for the sake of it.
And what's got to drive that is what your clients want to do differently or be different, like how they want to change. And that's the single question that any learning product should revolve around.
It's a great question.
I'm just doing a certification with a company at the moment. They're like, they need sales training. It's like, for what purpose? To sell more. Right. Yeah, okay. Let's drill that down a little bit more. Like, where are you seeing the problems? Are they not friendly? Are they not interculturally aware enough? Like, where's the problems? Like, what do we need to change in their behavior? It's not just they need to sell more. How? What needs to change?
What is that?
Yeah, and sometimes that takes some exploring. It's not always straight away on the surface, and the book, as you say, is not always directly related chapter by chapter to exacting that change, It's a big question. It's not as easy as I have book, I create course. It's a bit more complex than that, but it's good fun.
People think about it too in a linear way. I see that even with people developing a keynote from their book. They try to make it exactly like the book and it just doesn't work. It doesn't flow. It's two different platforms, two different mediums, two different, you're turning 60,000 words into a 30-minute keynote or 45-minute keynote or something. It just doesn't make sense. So, okay, all right. So bottom line here, if you're going to give one piece of advice to an author who wants their book to become this kind of genuine kind of commercial asset through products, what would that piece of advice be, Maria?
Know what your ideal learner wants to achieve from working with you. So if you're going to create a product that's going to help people, it's because those people genuinely want change somewhere. So find out what the change is, find out how they want to deliver, how they want that change delivered to them, and then build a product around those criteria. Reverse engineer the product from the needs, not from the content. It's got to come from the learner, not from the book.
Yeah, perfect. That's a perfect way to end. And I think from my own experience and from seeing how others are doing it, I get the feeling that the majority of people do it the exact other way around, and that's the missing link. Interesting. Maria Doyle, thank you, folks. Again, look, grab a copy of Everyone's a Teacher. We'll put the link in here somewhere, I'm sure. I do want to say thank you. This is it's such a big topic, and I think again, we explore this in such a minuscule way when it comes to product, and that's what I found most extraordinary about working with you. Is I don't think I've ever worked with anyone who really understands the depth and breadth of product architecture and product development around this in a way which is so much bigger than written book, must do online course. And I just love that. And I'm going to say to anyone who's listening to this, honestly, have a chat to Maria, mariadoyle.com. It's pretty easy to find you, about what your, book could be. If you're writing a book, have a conversation up front. If you've written a book, have the conversation rather than kind of going off and doing what most of us have done for the last 10 years, 20 years, whatever it might be, is like write the book, create the product, and then wonder why it doesn't sell. And it doesn't help you to achieve what it is that you want it to achieve. So Maria, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge. You do have so much expertise. And the thing I also like about working with you and having this conversation with you is you're helping people every day now as authors to do exactly what we're talking about here, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And look, I've got a half-hour chat button on my website. Hit me up and have a chat. Sometimes I had a client who actually handed over $2,500 and we spent an hour and a half on the phone, and she decided that she was not going to go ahead with building it because she was like, no. And I was like, oh, hang on, let me organise a refund. Like you've only done an hour and a half.
Because it was too much, right?
Yeah. She was trying to create the bachelor degree when what she really needed was a weekend workshop, and she's like, oh, I actually don't need to do all that. And she's like, you just saved me about 50 grand in about 6 months of wasting time. She's like, that's the best 2.5 grand I've ever spent.
Yeah, great. Well, that's actually a really important point, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, save yourself a pile of dough, save yourself a pile of money, and create stuff that's actually going to work by being strategic. And the whole concept of the business of being an author is strategic, and this is a great illustration of that. Maria Doyle, thank you so much. Remember, folks, www.mariadoyle.com. Grab the book, and thank you again, Maria, for your time and expertise. I greatly appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Thank you very much for sticking around, and I hope you got great value out of this episode of the Business of Being an Author podcast. Now, I'd also like to say that, of course, there is a book out called The Business of Being an Author, and it's all about the things that we're covering on the podcast, and I think it's perfect for any of you who are aspiring authors ready to really leverage that book. If you'd like to know more about that, you can visit www.andrewgriffiths.com or www.theauthoracademy.com.au. We'll put contact details in the show notes, and I really look forward to your company on the next episode. If you've got an idea for an author that you'd like me to interview, reach out, drop us a line. Righto, folks. Thank you.